let's get into the conversation about the glorification of sacrifice. And I'll be honest, this episode is probably going to be on the shorter side because it is, in my opinion, very black and white. And also, it is a conversation that needs to be had. And so, here's what I've realized. Hustle is no longer culturally sanctioned. No one is proudly saying, I'm like hashtag team no sleep. Like, we're not doing that anymore. However, what we are doing with entrepreneurs, leaders, folks who are high achieving, what we are doing, however, is struggling unnecessarily and calling it sacrifice, which, in my opinion, is like hustle's close cousin. Just gonna go ahead and say that. I find that sacrifice has become synonymous with struggle. And y'all, they are not the same. Okay. We go to good old Merriam Webster, right? And check out the definition for each. They are clearly not the same, right? They're not even synonyms. Okay. If we want to get super technical. And so, sacrifice is the surrender of something for the sake of something else. It's like a trade off, right? I will do this now for that later. Where struggle is to make strenuous or violent efforts in the face of difficulties or oppositions. I read that and I was like, dang, like energetically, like that feels so different, right? It feels like efforting. It feels like you are trapped and you are trying to get out. Whereas, sacrifice is very neutral. The energy of sacrifice is very neutral. It's, this for that, right? It feels a lot more anchored. Listen, y'all, there is no doubt that entrepreneurship has its challenges. It's hard work. For many of us, we're making a way where there hasn't been one, right? We're the first ones in our families to fill in the blank, right? We're the first ones to go to college, first ones with an advanced degree, first ones, making X amount of dollars. We're the first ones who are upwardly mobile, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Trailblazing is inherently challenging, right? You're the first in many ways. A path hasn't necessarily been set out for you. Sacrifices are required. It's to be expected. Hard work, yes. And that might require some sacrifices or trade offs, like I'm going to forego this big vacation because I'm going to use that money for capital in my business. Or, I'm not going to pick up my phone as soon as I wake up because I want to ensure I get a workout in and maximize my health while I put in hard work to build my business. Or I'm going to distance myself from this person who is really problematic because I need my energy to be high, right? Like I need my vibe to be high as I put out my work into this world, right? When you talk about sacrifices, and the sacrifices that you're making in your business, is this what you're talking about? This kind of like trade off situation? Or are you talking about struggling, pushing through, overworking, right? And listen, there are going to be seasons in your business where you may have to work a little bit longer than you like, or you may have to work hours that you don't like, but that's not necessarily what I'm talking about here. Okay? It's the making things harder than they need to be because struggle has come to mean that something or that you are worthy and worthwhile and deserving. Struggling is different. And in my opinion, sold separately, it's not a requirement of sacrifice. It just isn't. Okay. And so we really have to be super honest about our relationship with struggling, or quote unquote, the struggle. It's BS, but, and also, it's baked into the bedrock of our society. It is baked into the ways we've come to, think about work and our experiences with the workforce, right? And so, because of this, because it is just so insidious in so many different ways, it can be hard to see how it really sets us up for failure. Things, achievements, etc., are not better or more deserving because you lost your sanity to get to it. Okay. And if you need to rewind that piece, because, that really did something in your body, then please go ahead and do that. And this idea that your strength, worthiness comes from how much you struggle and ultimately how much you disconnect from yourself has got to go if you want to do legacy building and conscious entrepreneurship differently. The dangerous part about glorifying things is that they can then become expectations, meaning that if you glorify struggle, then the expectation is that you have to struggle. And the sneakiest part about this, right, like this insidious part, is that if it's an expectation, if that belief is somewhere within you, you are going to find ways to do it, right? You're going to find ways to struggle. Hashtag self sabotage. All right. You're going to find ways to make things unnecessarily hard, right? You're going to look for problems where maybe none exist, or you're going to go off tackling problems even before they become problems. Okay. And so that's why it's just so important for you to get really curious and build your self awareness around your relationship with chaos and with struggle. An exercise that you can do is, think about the first time that you heard the word struggle, right? Like, where were you? Who said it? How often did you hear it? Like, what was the context in which it was used? For example, in my home growing up, listen, sacrifice was coming out of my mom and my grandmother's mouth like it was like every other word. And if I think about the ways in which it was used, it's easy to see how hard work, struggle, and sacrifice were used interchangeably, right? Like, it's no wonder then that for a long time I was kind of addicted to chaos and overworking, right? And like overcoming things. It's kind of, as I've shared before, it's one of the ways in which I derived value in myself, right? So what did I do? Naturally, I just went towards it. Okay. And so instead of focusing so much on sacrifice and struggle when it comes to your career, when it comes to entrepreneurship, I want you to consider this idea of seasonality. Just like there are seasons in nature, right? There's a time for the leaves of a tree to fall off and die, right? And there's a time for them to bloom, right? There are seasons in your life and your business that are different and are going to require different things. Okay. And so, my invitation to you is to get really clear on what season you're in. Okay. Questions to ask yourself are: what are the characteristics of this season, of this particular season? What's the focus here? Okay. What's required of me? Who do I need to become to complete this season or cycle? And I'm not talking about like goal setting here. You really want to think about a season, right? Like a period of time, a cycle. Something is happening in this season, right? I'm not a farmer yet, right? It is definitely one of my dreams. So if I'm saying this wrong, please don't come for me, right? But I could imagine, and common sense tells me that there is a time, there is a season for you to like plant a seed. There is a season for the seed to do what it needs to do, right? And then there's a season for, whatever it is that you planted to bloom and to grow. It's the same exact thing. It's not just about setting a goal, but it's really looking at the totality of what it is that you're trying to achieve. These questions really allow you to approach things from a more grounded place, a more tactful and connected place without getting so caught up in the drama of struggling and overworking and worthiness, right? So like really moving away from that, building your awareness and doing this work, whatever your work is, on your terms, grounded from a place that feels good to you. And really, again, moving away from this glorification of struggle, the glorification of things being hard and that being a good thing, or that meaning that things are worthy. And so I hope this has been super helpful. I hope these questions are really supportive for you when it comes to reflecting. And I'm always curious to hear how these questions and these reflective exercises are landing for you. So you know how to reach me. You can go ahead and shoot me an email. We can connect online, on social. Happy reflecting.